President Gibbons, thank you so much for the introduction. And Happy New Year to all of the Rotarian members. It's good to be able to join you this morning. I'm a little bit under the weather. In some parts of the country, people are getting the flu, some people are getting COVID, some are getting both, and then some have allergies. My allergies is through the roof. But I'm glad to be with you virtually so we can still have this conversation. I'd like to thank President Givens for the opportunity. Again, he read a lot about my bio, and I have to say that he contributed so much to my success. When I look back at my long career in the Air Force, we were side by side, Starsky and Hutch, Cagney and Lacey, Brock and Michelle. I don't know. You could use whatever analogies you want to use, but that was my best guy there, and we did a lot of things. Diversity, equity, and inclusion has also been one of those signatures that President Givens and I have shared a very lengthy past. We both know that we were able to accomplish the things that we accomplished on the shoulders of giants, those people who came before us. And so I'm encouraged. I'm encouraged to see what we are doing these days as we've gotten a little bit older. My gray hair is coming a little bit more, and I see you, KP Porter. You got the grayish going on in the goatee as well. Amen. But that's what it's all about. It's about finding yourself as you get older, learning from the mistakes in which we've made, teaching the young people how they can overcome challenges and hopefully not fall into the same pitfalls that we have. So thank you again for the introduction. Simply put, my work with the Global Chamber is a very dynamic service. And that service has me basically going around the state of Texas to include my major markets are Austin, Houston, and San Antonio, Texas. And I help to share the message of what international business, trade, and exports look like for small businesses and large businesses. A lot of my work when I came out of the Air Force was a volunteer labor of love. I volunteered to serve the city of San Antonio, where I think I learned what the true challenges of small minority, women, veteran-owned businesses are, because as people put their pennies together, as they break open those piggy banks, they're trying to take their small savings and turn it into something that will be a legacy for themselves and their families. And so when I look at the heart of America, and as you all can appreciate, the heart of America and our business community are the small businesses. Small businesses represent the majority of the businesses in America and the world. So therefore, my passion as an advocate to advance small businesses is still a very real passion for me, which is why I'm able to do my work with the Global Chamber. Global Chamber really has opened my eyes. When I was serving as the chairman of the Texas Association of African American Chambers of Commerce, or as we affectionately call it, Texas TAC. As I led TAC with President Charles O'Neill, it became apparent that as we would go across the state, that there were so many different types of markets in the state of Texas. We have some that are very urban, like Houston, and then we have some that are very country, and we can see every different type of market within the state, and the state is a very vast territory. In fact, when you look at the economy for the state of Texas, we always are ranking number one or number two, leading the nation with a very favorable business economy. And then when we look at what Texas does in terms of its exports and its international business, we're also in the very top two typically. Again, because uh, areas like Houston just boom with business that goes through the ports. So we have a very vibrant market. And then down in Laredo, at the very south part of Texas, the exports are just going through the roof. So I've had to learn some things as I've gone along. In fact, I was when I retired from the Air Force and I took my very first position, it was with the Alamo City Black Chamber of Commerce. And I remember Secretary Ron Brown when I was on active duty, he told me, because like a lot of young sailor soldiers, airmen, and Marines, we have these thoughts of possibly separating from service to get a good six-figure, income on corporate America. That's always been like the bait, the carrot that's out there. We know that the military recruits the best and the brightest, and once they start to hone the skills of the best and the brightest, then we believe we're marketable immediately to go out into corporate America. Um, but Secretary Brown told me to stick with the military, stick with being the best officer I could be. And he said, also, I want to encourage you to start your own business. And he says, I don't care what kind of business it is. He says it can be a Amway business for all I care. So that was actually one of my first businesses in the military, because I did start an Amway business just so I can get the time clock started in terms of me learning business and then being able to figure out what are these conversations that business people have. Uh, I met Secretary Brown in my very initial assignment at Los Angeles Air Force Base. And that was at the beginning of my career in 19, I think it was like 94, 95. The Air Force at that time also was challenged and is still challenged with having Black officers. And so I was a part of an experimental group of Gold Bar recruiting officers that went out initially when I first came into the service to go out and help to recruit more Black, more Hispanic, more Asian, more Native American officers for the Air Force. But as I fell back into my first assignment at Los Angeles, it was very interesting that there was a protocol opportunity that was presented to me. Protocols basically, being like the handler, being the guy who sets the table, make sure that all the fork, knives, and spoons are right. It's making sure that everything has great detail. It's being able to put on your uniform and stand at attention, and then you feel like you are the guy that's exhibiting the swag of the service. It's that type of thing. So I had the chance to be um, to serve, and I didn't really know the importance of. At the time, it was it was a former president, Ronald Reagan, who in fact was um, had a Reagan library that was near Los Angeles, and so a volunteer opportunity came up. They said, "Hey, would you like to go serve the president down at the library?" And I said, "Sure." And I went down, and that really probably kickstarted my career, because I was, as close as as we are right now to the president, and so I was taking care of his protocol needs. And I got a chance to meet some very amazing people, kings of various countries, world leaders. I had my first introduction to General Colin Powell at the time in Alma. They were friends of the Reagans, and so I did a good job. And so then my boss, he was a three-star general, Barry. He says, "Hey, I got this Secretary of Commerce coming into Los Angeles. He needs an escort. Would you like to be an escort?" So I was like, "Well, sure." So that's how I was able to meet Secretary Ron Brown. Was fact that he wanted to at least give the secretary a sharp African American officer that could be with him as he received a recognition from the links. He was receiving a lifetime recognition from the links, and so I went to the Beverly Hills Hilton and put on my we call our mess dress, which is our tuxedo, and I had one or two ribbons, medals, which was really funny because they were just dangling loosely in the air, um, which showed how young I was. But yet, it was great to be in front of a Hollywood audience with Secretary Brown as he received his accolades. And he was very pivotal, though, to tell me to stay in the military, finish out a career, start a business, join chambers of commerce wherever you go, and then learn the language of business. And he says, and one day, he says, you may be a chamber president, or you may even want to be, my position here at the as a secretary of commerce. So all those things are real. It was great inspiration to know that he affected my life in this way. And now, fast forward, when I did leave the Black Chamber at the state level, I chaired for 4 years. Uh, People like Gerald Givens went on the road with me to Washington to visit with the members of Congress because African American businesses, for the most part, have struggled. Struggled. Cash is king, and when you don't have cash flow, businesses die. And so, for African American businesses and Hispanic businesses, uh, cash flow is typically the death of our businesses. Access to capital. We're familiar with now these terms like redlining that have happened in minority or urban markets around the United States, which actually put our businesses behind the eight ball and never really gave us a chance to be out in front. And then when you look at things historically like Black Wall Street, where we did have a thriving business community, it was burned to the ground. And so when we think about that and we think about where we are today, there's still so much that we have to do. So as I came into the chairmanship of the Texas organization, I was limited to 4 years of serving. So I served for 2 terms. And then after I served the last term and spoke with the governor of Texas, Abbott, and basically in my last speech, I gave him the my concerns because at that time, uh, African American businesses were receiving a little bit less. Well, at the time, it was about 1% to 2% of the state's procurement, 1 to 2%. But yet, African Americans as a population, we're about 8 to 11% of the total population. So I was looking at this formula of money that's coming in off of taxes and then money going out from the state into contracts that never hit our communities. When I became chair of TAC, it was disappointing because the numbers over the last decade had just been going down, down, down. Now it's even less than 1%. But I use as the analogy to the governor that African American business owners had a better chance at getting a contract or not getting a contract, but hitting big in Vegas than we did having the chance to get a contract in the state of Texas because it was truly less than 1% or skim milk, as I would use as another analogy. We were being given skim milk. And so the governor understood the analogy, and he did come to speak during our Black Business Day, and he did his homework. He did his homework. He taught me some things in that dance because anytime that you come up with a formidable opponent, you need to do your homework. He came back with some analogies of the top businesses that were Black in the state of Texas. And then he says, "Well, I assume they're here. I assume they're in your meeting." And they were not in my meeting, which made my effort to say, "Governor, we need more help." And then his analogy was basically, "But y'all need to help yourselves first." So I learned a lesson. I walked away with a little bit of a sting, but I did give him a clock, which was my presentation to say thank you for coming. And then, in the name of poet and rapper Julius Moas Diaz, I said, "Governor Abbott, do you know what time it is? Tell me, do you know?" I said, "Check the clock." Because I said, every day that from this point on that you look at your clock, know that the state of Texas is killing Black owned businesses, and we need to do something collectively to make it rise. And that was the end of my chairmanship. Then I was hired to be the president of the Global Chamber San Antonio, which for me was totally different. And what I want to at least leave as a thought, sometimes we don't think that we're prepared to do some of the bigger challenges and roles. I do not have a degree in business. I do not have a degree in international business. I do not have a working knowledge of how business and acquisitions would take place outside of the United States. So I did not think that I was going to be selected for the position of executive director for an international chamber. I thought that there were probably more highly qualified individuals that probably reflected the market of San Antonio, which is like 70%, 75% Hispanic, and I don't speak Espanol. So when I looked at all these obstacles, I was like, God, why would I apply for this? And he said, apply. So I applied. I was hired. And then what I've learned since, and this has been 6 years now, that I've been able to be a person who tries to learn as much and be a quick study of of the craft as possible. So I'm always reading. I'm always looking at various things like Bloomberg on. I watch any of the foreign international shows. I try to go to other cultures, their events. So I went, like, for this New Year's, I went to a Lebanese New Year celebration, which was pretty dope. uh, I try to make myself available to all communities because moving a global economy in a city like San Antonio, or a city like Austin, or a city like Houston, you have to be able to relate with everyone, and you have to also know what they care about. I've hosted African business leaders, at least 150, uh, that have come to San Antonio or Austin, and I've given them a welcome, a hug. I've given them a membership pin. I've also extended the ability for them to be able to communicate with me throughout their life after meeting me. They affectionately call me, President Herring or my brother, but we extend pleasantries. And again, I was pleased that Mr. Givens was able to help me with doing that very mission. Um, and we had a delegation from Vietnam, if Mr. Givens remembers, and that was probably one of the more remarkable visits. And ever since that time that we met with this Vietnamese delegation, they have on their calendar our anniversary when we first met, and so they'll they'll be at a restaurant in somewhere in Ho Chi Minh, and then they'll be like, "Hey," they'll be on Zoom, and we'll have a fellowship, and that's a great thing because business is about relationships, just like our friendships are about relationships, but business is about relationships. And so we have to take the time to get to know people, to know their values, and then also to know how to address needs that may not necessarily be about contracts or money. Many of the people who I've come across are spiritual partners, prayer partners, people who um, have a love for the Lord, and I have a love for the Lord. So it helps me also to advance ministry. And what I really found was pretty interesting, because God is good. is the fact that when I was a little boy and I was looking at the Bible, and it was telling me about how important it was for me as a Christian to be able to spread the good news of the gospel all around the world. And I was like thinking to myself, how are we going to do that? This is not even possible. I mean, I'm watching the Jetsons and I see, this concept of having a video phone, right, or video TV, and look where we are right now. 2024, we are able to see each other. We are able to communicate with each other. We are able to do many of the things in which we saw as little boys and girls. Except now, this gives us the ability to be able to take a message around the world and unite with people that we've never talked to. So I challenge even your organization to keep your opportunities open to be able to serve those people who are looking at North Carolina and the Rotary Club mission so that they can receive it, because your values are awesome. I'm also born in through parents that are from North Carolina. My family was born and raised in a small town called Garland, North Carolina. And Gerald did not mention that. But Garland, North Carolina was the birthplace of of my family, the Herring family. And I look at what I do now as a reflection of my community there in Garland. We have probably, I think the last census was like 700 people that are in this small town. But this small town has produced so many great people, leaders who have done some great things in this world, and I'm so very proud to represent my community. Um, I grew up in New York, so my parents though migrated from North Carolina to New York, and now my dad is back in North Carolina, where he served as a senior pastor to a church and served in the Baptist Association there as a vice moderator. So I have experience with my North Carolina blood. Um, I'll say, just going back to Global Chamber, we help businesses of all types to be able to grow from being small to being very large. Global Chamber is very special because we use a virtual platform just like this meeting is being held. And so if you go to globalchamber.org, you can see a calendar of events in which you all are invited to. We have something that's going on Monday through Friday every day. And these events that are on our calendar are from metropolitan markets around the world. So we are one chamber with 525 locations. So you could see presentations from London, you can see presentations from San Antonio, you could see presentations from Los Angeles, you may even see presentations from Africa. Uh, and I'm really amazed at how we're able to bridge the communication gap of being able to understand what people and their needs are by this virtual platform. The Global Chamber also does live events. So we do set up and we do, in-person, face-to-face events. But as a backbone, the only way to unite 525 metropolitan markets is to have a very good virtual platform. And so our memberships are the same as any other chamber membership. Uh, there in North Carolina, it would be probably the equivalent. But what we do is because we're so different than the normal chamber of commerce, we try to create marketing partnerships with the local chamber so as not to intimidate them with we're trying to take over the world. So we can share with them about the international trade mission of Global Chamber. Is typically a mission that local chambers don't really speak to anyway, because most chambers are really focused on business to business and local communities. Most chambers in your local communities don't have members who are outside of your local community. So if you went to, like, say, the North Carolina, chamber, you would expect to see North Carolina members, but would you expect to see members from New York or from California or from Utah? You wouldn't. So Global Chamber has that effect where our members are able to reach out across the country or around the world. And